Probably the best in the league.
Yeah, that's what they say. Top 3. Yeah, right up there.
It's the Sittin Sportside podcast, exclusively on 1045theteam.com.
And welcome in here on a nice, beautiful day. I'm Eric Hammond along with Matt Hogan here on 1045theteam.com, Sittin Sportside. Let's start off the show today, Matt. I called you Matt. I don't think I've ever called you Matt.
That's kind of weird. I don't know if I
Hogan?
like that.
I don't know. Yeah, you're more of a Hogan.
Yeah, I don't know. Whoa.
Keep the nickname on you.
Yeah.
Let's start off the show today talking about some things that have come up recently in terms of baseball. We all know that what the new commissioner Rob Manfred really has been a stickler, if you will, on, or something that he really is. One of his biggest goals is to speed up the game, make it more, I don't know, enjoyable for fans, or speed it up.
It's funny though, but he wants more action too. I feel like with more action,
definitely more action, because
think
think about it. I mean, I know some baseball games go close to 4 hours, but there are games that I would say the average game is probably 3 to 3:15, 3.5. I mean, NFL is just about the same. It's just more action, I guess, every play is the biggest thing. But to speed up the game, I think it's going to really take away from the purity of it. And I think because at this point, I'm not sure you're going to, I could be wrong. I'm not sure you're going to get more fans. I think you're going to end up upsetting the people that are already there that aren't going to leave no matter what.
Yeah, at what point do you actually hurt the game by making these these rule changes that they want to implement? You know what I mean? Like, at what point does it become a whole different game now?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because I had this conversation when we found out about it with someone here, and it was like the potentially walking, you know? Because so we look at the potential walk-ins, is, oh no, you have it. The first thing I pull up is Miguel Cabrera getting an RBI single off of it, and then Gary Sanchez with the almost near home run sacrifice fly off a failed, if you will, intentional walk pitch. Now, if you just give them the pitchers, oh, here you go. You want to walk the guy? Okay, walk him. This takes away from a potential mistake, which is part of the game, man. You need to know how to throw 4 balls. And guess what? There's people out there. I know Dellin Betances, I think, is one of them. They're not comfortable doing it. Yeah. And that affects the game. And that's what the game has been since day one.
Yeah, you need to. That needs to stay there, or else it's just, you take strategy out of it too at that point.
Right.
You know, I get the fans want to see the best player going against the best pitcher sometimes, and sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes
that's
that
not the reason why they're doing
walked.
it. They're doing that to speed it up.
Yeah, which I don't think it really will speed up. Does an intentional walk really take that long?
I guess it's like 10 seconds or 15 seconds that just don't matter.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there watching the guy throw 4 pitches, and then they have a nice little conversation. So no, I guess it's like skipping out. It's like having the conversation right away. You throw the 4 balls, then the catcher comes out and says, all right, this is what you're going to do now. The pitching coach comes out. They just want to skip right to the conversation, I guess.
That's what needs to change, in my opinion. That constant pitcher and catcher interaction. We saw it last year in the playoffs.
I know.
I can't. That's the one thing I will be okay with. I hate that a catcher, when they go up constantly in the same inning.
Okay, but here, let me put this in perspective. For someone like you who teach,
yep.
Put your head in a position of a teacher.
Yep.
And I know it's a little different because when you're there with the class.
Because I'm also not competing against another substitute teacher.
Okay.
I think I know where you're going with it, though. That's why I said that.
But like, if you're trying to prepare for your kids, are you going to really dive into comparing or preparing for that lesson plan, or are you going to sit there and not necessarily prepare with? So say you're going to combine a class, right? So say you're going to have a teacher come to your class and maybe a guest speaker. Are you going to collaborate with it and make sure you guys are on the same page? Like, oh, I know I wanted you to come in and talk about Benjamin Franklin, and instead he comes in and talks about Alexander Hamilton, which you already covered.
I get what you're saying. It's a good point, but also
you
realize
want to be on the same page.
In this situation, though, it gives a disadvantage to one of the parties.
Who?
Or the hitter. The hitter definitely gives that a disadvantage, right? If they get to talk about what they want to do each time.
Well, it's not illegal. It's not against the
Well,
rules,
what I'm saying is if you cut that down to where it's not constant, because I mean,
you don't know what's coming regardless of your batter. So when they go out and talk, it's not like they're gonna like change what they know about what is going.
Yeah, but they
come.
might change what they do.
What the
catcher probably?
Yeah.
I'm guessing the catcher knows more about the hitters
than you gotta react.
Though. Yeah, I'm guessing the catchers know more about the hitters though. What I'm saying is, it just gives them it's. You don't see that in any other sport, right? And I guess I'm not trying to make baseball that.
Yeah.
But you don't see in the NBA
Football,
where
they huddle.
Yeah, they huddle they didn't have a timer, right? A play clock.
Right.
So sometimes they can't really huddle. Sometimes it's just let's go into that, that next reaction. Sometimes that's what you have to do.
Right.
And, in baseball, there's no time. So you're just, okay, I'm going to go up and talk to my pitcher now, and we're going to talk about, pitch for pitch, what we're going to do. And when the ump comes out, warns us.
The umpire comes
That's
out.
what I'm
Breaks
saying. When
it
the
up.
ump comes up and, warns us, tells us to get back. Okay, whatever. We'll take another 5 seconds. Okay,
Yeah, but
we're
then,
back.
then I know, and on the same sentiment, the NBA, I mean, they want to talk about every play in the last 2 minutes.
But they have timeouts for that and stuff like that. Like if baseball wants to implement timeouts,
4 or 5 catcher. So that's what you're going with?
Yeah, I just don't think
4 or 5 per inning for a catcher can go out and talk.
There should be a limit or some kind because it is that.
But in the playoffs, man, if you're on the road, I mean,
that's part of the atmosphere though.
But then going out and talking to the pitchers, is
teams
also part of the game. Though.
You don't get to say, I'm in Seattle this week in the NFL, so we're gonna
But there's never been a time limit on pitch. So whenever you want to pitch, you pitch.
Yeah, that's what I think.
So if you're here's my thing. Wait.
Let's hear it.
Wait. If you can control how much a catcher can go talk with a pitcher, and if you can control how quickly the pitcher needs to pitch.
Well, I don't know about that.
At what point do you take away? Okay, fine.
I don't want that.
At what point? But then now, what about the hitter? The hitter. So the pitcher's ready to pitch, but the hitter, he's taking too long in his set. So now I need to call timeout.
Yeah.
To me, that puts talk about a hitter at a disadvantage. I think the pitcher gets at a disadvantage when he's ready to pitch, and all of a sudden the hitter's just like, no, I'm not comfortable anymore.
That's one of those things, though. Yeah, I get that, but it's also like, well, maybe the hitter's not ready to hit after 10 to 12 seconds of standing there in his batting stance.
Right. So why do you have to change anything? That's why I don't think you can change anything. Because if you change one thing, you got to change something else.
I don't think you have to, though. I think just having a limit on how many times they can have mound visits with the catcher.
But you understand my thing here?
Oh, I get what you're saying, but I think it's two different things.
Those mound visits probably cut down how many times more that the pitchers I think will be in that set longer.
I get what you're saying, but there's a lot of pitchers that take a lot longer to pitch than some pitchers like to get the ball and go. Like we see that they have a rhythm. Some pitchers take their time. But we
see a lot of times these guys sitting there in their sets, and then when they don't pitch, and you see the batter call timeout or the catcher call timeout, that's because that's when they call the timeouts a lot of times.
Yeah, I guess maybe I cut down. All right, how about?
So they're going to be doing that. They're going to be doing that a lot more.
What about every time? Every time, like you strike out a guy or you get an out, and it's just you go to the, you know what I mean? You go to the mound. Like that, in my opinion, is the worst part of it. That's why I'd want to change it. I get where you're coming from. I just don't. I think if it becomes too constant, it takes away a little bit of the game.
All right.
I know what you're saying, though. I get it because it would affect that. It would.
The other rule change that they're thinking about, and they're starting to possibly implement an NHL-type shootout rule, I guess, is what I kind of look at it as, is having and it's also a backyard wiffle ball rule, starting extra innings with a guy on second base to probably speed it up, to avoid those 21, 22-inning regular season games, so they're 18 or even 15. Do you think that rule is dumb, or do you see it as it's actually a good thing? As a 162-game season as it is, it'll speed up games that go into extra innings. It will take away some pressure from the guys who play almost every single day.
I don't think I like it. I also don't know how it would work yet specifically. Like, would that person at second base be somebody that's on your bench? And what happens to them? Can they ever pitch hit or come into the game later in the game? You know what I mean?
Right.
As a rule itself, I get the reason for it. I just don't know if I like it. I also think it affects their stats too. Like, would it go against like his earned run average if that guy scored? I know it's like something weird to think about, but like it would affect it.
Yeah, no, I think.
Like, would that be like, or would that just be like not their runner? No one's responsible.
It wouldn't count towards anything, because if you are a reliever coming in, and the runner's on second, it's the guy from previous. So it wouldn't be anybody's runner.
So it would just be like a run that doesn't go against anyone.
I would imagine.
Which would be weird, right? It's kind of weird.
But if the guy hits a 2-run walk-off bomb, then one of the runs would count.
One of the runs would count, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't think I like it. I think it takes away from that. I think that specifically takes away.
I don't necessarily see myself as a baseball purist, but I'm probably the closest thing to a modern baseball purist. Like, everything I know about baseball now, I really don't want to change. Like when the All-Star game now is no longer home field advantage. I don't really like
hate that. God, I hate that.
That
they
was more
changed that.
modern, because it happened, 10, 15,
And they at least have
11 years
something
ago,
to play
but-
for in that
Right.
circumstance. And now it's just a game where maybe they'll go out and try. Who knows?
So we'll see what more Manfred has to do. I mean, he's doing a good enough job.
They also want to make strike zone changes.
Right, though that's the last thing we should talk about real quick here, is that, the lower pitch, I think it needs to be called. I mean, I think you need to have a solid border on that strike zone. I mean, you can't
And plus,
keep flubbing it.
they'll have to go through the Players Association, and around half the players in the league are pitchers. I can't imagine a pitcher being like, yeah, I'm in. I like that rule. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't.
it's a compromise, though.
Yeah. I don't know. It's more that
Either
one's-
way, it's still going to be up to the ump. And it's not like it's going to be
Well, that's the thing.
automated systems in it yet.
Buster Only actually talked about it. Like, it's changed over the last 5 years without an actual official change in the strike zone.
Right.
So, like, it's already changed. It's just the refs, the
Umps.
umpires' view of it. You're not going to be able to change not every ump is going to be able to be like, okay, this strike zone is now this big. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, everyone's going to have the same one. No, it's up to them what they think is a striking ball. And it always will be. I don't know how they would change that.
All right, we got a new segment planned for you coming up next. It's called Don't Give Up. We're planning on doing it just on the NBA. That's next on Sittin Sportside.
From Radio Row in Houston, it's Levac and Gaz on 104.5 The Team.
We are joined by Kel Mitchell. How cool was it to break out the old Good Burger routine again?
Talking to the Nickelodeon team, they were like, let's just do it as Ed. It just took off, man. It was so much fun. And, being that Ed's an airhead, it was kind of fun to be able to ask the players some more random questions. Like telling Tom Brady, like, whoa, you don't really look like a goat. Where's your fur?
It's Levac and Gaz driving you home weekdays 2 to 7 on 104.5 The Team. It's the Sitting Sportside podcast, exclusively on 104.5theteam.com.
Welcome back to Sitting Sportside, and we got a nice little segment coming up here, Hogan. I'm Eric Hammond along with Matt Hogan.
Oh, yeah.
So we got a nice little segment coming up. We have a perfect. I think it's going to really hit home with a lot of, because you know what? I think as fans, we don't want to give up on people. We don't want to give up, or sometimes we like to give up on people. That guy's done nothing his entire career. He's got so it's a perfect thing, and that's where we go into this segment. Are you ready for it?
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Why don't you just give up?
I won't give up.
All right, so who will you give up on this guy, or will you give up on him? We're going to name two players, and we're sticking to different NBA draft classes. We're going to have to stick to whether we give up. We can give up on both, or we can not give up on both, but we're pinning two against each other. First two, go Hogan.
All right, so we got Okafor, Jahlil Okafor.
Jahlil Okafor. So this is 2015 draft.
Yes, 2015 draft class. He is now in the 76ers. Not getting a ton of playing time now,
Yeah,
but he could be traded soon, so we don't know about that either.
don't know.
Also,
Don't know.
former teammate of his, also at Duke.
So we're doing this at Dookie.
Oh, yeah.
Duke
Tyus Jones.
Same draft class. He was drafted 24th overall, I believe, by the Cleveland Cavaliers and was traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yes, right on the dot.
I mean,
wow.
yeah, we do research on this show.
Well, some of us.
Man,
We're
that's
starting
tough.
to probably,
Okay.
yeah.
One of them was the second overall pick. So when you look at it that way, it's almost like, okay, Jahlil Okafor was supposed to come out of school, and he was supposed to be arguably
he
the
was the
first
third.
overall pick. It's going to be third, yeah.
Should have been probably second. That's what they were talking about. But anyways, keep going.
Oh, yeah, D'Angelo.
D'Angelo. I forget that
See,
he was in that
research
draft
doesn't run
class.
this deep.
I forgot he was drafted in that class. I really did. Even though it was just-
Russell? Or?
yeah, Russell. I don't know
Yeah.
why. Just kind of.
They needed a guard, the Lakers did.
Yep.
They got Randall the year before. So, yeah, no, third overall. And Okafor was supposed to be the number one overall pick, right? And Towns jumped him, and obviously Russell got him a second. Listen, Okafor, I'm not going to give up on Okafor because he's still, when he does play, he still plays hard enough to where he's playing well. Obviously, I'm not going to give up on him, but I'm going to give up on him in Philadelphia, and I'll tell you why. Joel Embiid is the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sixers know that. They trust the process, and therefore the process is it's no longer called the process. The process is Joel Embiid. So, like, when you say trust the process, you're trusting Joel Embiid. But that means it's either him or it's going to be Nerlens Noel, right? Who's going to be traded.
Noel's there.
Both of them could be traded. I don't know, because Ben Simmons, he could be a 4, man. He's like LeBron-esque to where he could probably, go on the floor. You don't necessarily need Okafor anymore, or even Noel. I mean, that's the thing. So I'm going to give up on Joel Okafor in Philadelphia, but I'm not giving him up as an NBA prospect because I think he's going to be a fine guy. I think he's a double-double averager on some team and an impact center for a team.
He's like that big-time center, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like that guy that's you can count on
He's an
to do what he needs to do. Rebounds, and he can score very well at the basket.
He's old school in a way because he knows how to be a big man and score. And we've seen, as a Nets fan, we've seen guys like Brook Lopez who are able to do that and still don't seem to be as big impact players as they should be. But I think Okafor definitely has a lot of good years left in him. For Tyus Jones, though, for me, I'll jump into this real quick. To me, I think I guess he was a little young, right, coming out?
Yeah,
He's still only 20 years old, probably. And I need him out. We've talked about this before. I need him out of Minnesota. Unless they're willing to trade Rubio. But guess what? Chris Dunn fell in their laps.
Yeah.
So they don't need him. And so I think once he's gone, which will probably be gone, I guess another year unless they trade him.
Yeah, I would think at some point there's no reason to have all three of them.
You know what? He's gotten minutes. He had games earlier this year where he was actually playing a decent amount of minutes when Rubio was injured and Dunn was kind of struggling, and he played pretty good. He might get some more minutes now. Zach LaVine out for the year. Maybe we'll get to see him more. But I really believe in Tyus. I believe in him a lot coming in. Because guess what? The MVP of that team that won the championship at Duke, Tyus Jones, hands down. He hit the biggest shots of anybody on that team down the stretch in the Final Four.
Yeah, I think he could play. And I think you're right, though. I don't know if it's Minnesota. Minnesota needs to do something with that trio. He'll have a good career. I still have faith in him. I'm not giving up on you, Tyus Jones. Not now. Not forever.
Ever. Maybe someday, though.
Yeah, maybe. If Minnesota decides to just keep you in.
Okay.
Wash away your career.
Speaking of Minnesota, the one I'm going to bring up right now, here it is. Adrian Payne. That happens to be in Minnesota. He was drafted by Atlanta. He was traded, ended up on Minnesota. He's also just chilling there behind Karl Anthony Towns, Gorgie Jang, and a few other big men. And then also two from the same draft class. So Payne was picked 15th. 2 picks later, James Young, taken by the Celtics with the Nets pick. First pick that they got from the Nets. Mm-hmm. He has not been able to find a role with the Boston Celtics, and it really looks like after this year, I think he's a restricted free agent, but he's not gonna stay in Boston. They're probably basing him out.
You said it kind of perfect. It seems like he doesn't have that role on that team. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to find too. If you can't fit into that role, that might just not be a designed kind of team for him. People working better in different systems, and James Young clearly is not a part of that team.
When he was coming out of Kentucky, he had that monster dunk during the tournament. And then he was also one of the better shooters on the team. So I thought this guy was going to come out and be an offensive juggernaut. Now, I don't know. He's been back and forth between the D-League. I'm not sure the circumstance, like you said, in the role has affected his play, has affected his mental stability, because I'm not sure where this guy's going to fit. I don't want to give up on him. It's funny because I'm not giving up on any of these guys.
No, I guess that should have been more of a...
Should be like, we're not giving up. I guess it's like, but...
They're players that you shouldn't give up on.
Because I really think James Young can still be a very good player in the NBA, and I just think when you have a scorer like that, he hasn't been able to find the niche.
He's got the tools too. I'm not really worried to the point where I would with somebody else.
For Adrian Payne, though, it's a little different because James Young came out as a freshman. Adrian Payne came out as a senior at Michigan State, and I think he's got range. He can shoot. He's a good rebounder. He's got good motor. I don't think I should give up on him, but it's just he's the same year coming out the same year, but he was 3 or 4 years older than James Young, 3 years older. I don't know if a team's got to give him a chance, and I'm not sure. I don't know. I just don't.
I don't think his role is ever going to be like a starting centerpiece here. Not centerpiece, but a starting role in your team. I think he could be a very good guy off the bench.
I'll say this. This is what I'm trying to say. To your point, I'm weary on how good he can be because of the fact that he has yet to be able to carve a role in 3 years.
Yeah.
For someone like James Young, it's like, okay, he was a freshman coming out, more raw. Payne was coming out as a seasoned veteran. He was a huge part of that Michigan State team when they were very good and lost to UConn in his senior year. So I'm nervous that it's taken him 3 years and he hasn't been able to carve out a role, even on a Tom Thibodeau team that I think he could have been able to fit in right there. So I'm a little skeptical, but I'm not giving up on him because I think, like you said, I think he can be a very good 6-man type big man off the bench and really be a stretch 4 or 5.
Yeah, you've just said he has the range, too, to force defenders to guard him out at the perimeter, too. So that's a big piece that you can't get. You can't just find in free agency all the time or find in a draft class. That's an important role that you can have. We'll see what happens, but until he finds like a more stable role and he can actually come off the bench consistently and have that steady kind of place on a team.
All right, next. You got next pair here.
Next pair?
Yeah, you got one?
No, I was thinking more Michael Carter-Williams.
Okay, Michael Carter-Williams.
Because that was more of a player I didn't want to get. You know what I mean? Because he did win Rookie of the Year. What, 2 years ago now?
Yep.
He can score. He can score the basketball, but he's obviously hit kind of a rough patch the last couple of years, and he was recently traded. I just don't know if I buy him as like a true point guard, and I think that hurts him a little bit. I think he's more of a shooting guard to my understanding of him. Like, I think he should be more focused on not having the ball in his hands at all, throughout the entire game. He should be moving around. He should be trying to free himself open. He's a good shooter. Well, he's not a great shooter, but he can be an improved shooter, and I think he's a guy that we shouldn't give up on yet because he can straight up score the basketball.
He'll be a good, I think, 6th-man type on a team maybe if we're looking for a championship.
He's kind of like Crawford, right? Like his talent-wise. And it's funny, right when you said 6-man, I just thought Crawford. He can score off the bench. He's a guy that can start on some teams, but he'd be a perfect guy to come off the bench and provide that necessary spark for many teams.
Okay, so this is... I added Ben McLemore in there for a little bit.
Yep.
He's someone who probably needs a change of scenery. I have a little bit of a... how shall you say... unorthodox.
Oh, okay.
Don't give up type thing here. And I don't know, did you follow the guys who were undrafted in 2016?
The ones that were undrafted?
Right. Okay. So I have one in mind that I really want to talk about. So maybe I'll just put his name up, and that'll be all we'll talk about right here.
Okay.
Wayne Selden Jr.
Ooh.
We're 3rd. No, Wayne Selden Jr. Frank Mason 3rd.
Yeah, Frank Mason.
Wayne Selden Jr. came out after junior year.
Mm-hmm.
Did not get drafted. He's currently playing in the D League. Do you see Wayne Selden eventually getting himself into the NBA and maybe carving out a role? Should we give up on Wayne Selden and say, hey, it was a dumb move to come out, even though he's making a little bit of money, I guess, down in the D League?
We can't give up because he's still so young. And to your point, I think he can carve out a role eventually with an NBA team. I just don't know if it's ever going to be something that's, a fortified role where he's actually playing big-time minutes. He's more of a guy that will be a fill-in for certain spots, and I see him bouncing around with the D League for a couple more years,
he's on the Iowa Energy, I believe, is the name of the team.
Iowa Energy. Whoa. Bring the energy.
Yeah. Yeah, and...
maybe he could bring them some energy. I don't know. I think he's a guy, though, that comes off the bench.
He's averaging 18.1 points per game, but that's basically... He's a guy who's just going to score. And we saw Jordan McVeigh, I believe he's out of Tennessee, who played really well in the D League, set like a record for most points in a single game in D League. He signed on, ended up winning a championship last year with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and now he's just kind of a guy who's like more like a practice player. I think that's what we're looking at with Wayne Selden, but I think he's going to be more.
Yeah,
I think he's a guy who could just maybe if he like puts his head down and starts to say, maybe you need to carve out some defensive prowess to make the NBA. That's where I think a lot of these guys go wrong.
He's in the D League development.
Right. I think where a lot of these guys need to go. If I was able to talk to a kid coming out of college who was fringe being drafted or even a 2nd-round prospect, I would tell them, learn how to play some defense, kid. Because once you learn how to play defense, you already have your offensive game. You don't have to worry about that. Then you'll probably carve out a role in the NBA.
Yeah, but that's the point, right? Get down there, work on your weaknesses, then maybe we can carve out. Maybe you can find a role on this team and actually give us some valuable minutes, in games.
All right, now speaking of Wayne Selden Jr., he was on the Kansas team last year, a very good Kansas team. They ended up losing. They were the number 1 overall seed, right? Oh, yeah. Ended up losing to the eventual champion Villanova Wildcats. Well, who's the favorite this year?
Incredible shot.
Could you argue that Villanova is the favorite this year? We'll talk about our favorites in the NCAA coming up next on Sittin Sportside.
Big Board Sports with Roger Weiland.
We're joined by College Basketball Hall of Famer Syracuse's Jim Boeheim. Coach, what comes to mind when you think of the Capital District?
Oh, I think getting the Final Four run through there and getting to win our first, win our national championship. We came through Albany. The fans were unbelievable. It was like playing in Syracuse. It's always good to talk to people from Albany. We have great fans down in the Albany area.
Big Board Sports with Roger Weiland. Weekdays from 10 to noon on The Team. It's the Sittin Sportside podcast, exclusively on 1045theteam.com.
Welcome back to Sittin Sportside, and we're right in the full swing of it, Hogan.
College basketball.
College
you smell it?
basketball, and you can smell the conference tournaments.
Ooh, it's here, baby.
They're definitely coming. And something that I've always noticed about the conference tournaments is it doesn't necessarily give you the team that is going to necessarily be the team that shows up in the tournament. Sometimes it does, like when you see the Kemba Walkers of the world just go off, and then they go off in the tournament as well.
Carry that momentum with them.
Some of them, but some of them don't. Some of them, well, they do, but they don't. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I know. You might not win your conference tournament, but you could be the best team in the NCAA.
Right, and sometimes you win the conference tournament, and people who all of a sudden expect you to go farther.
Yeah, no, it's not a determinant for future success.
We're going to start off by talking about who we think are the favorites, and obviously Villanova are off the bat. You can definitely look at it, and then the usual Kansas, Dukes, and the Kentuckys of the world. But something that I always want to talk about is the Pac-12. For me, it's always like, when I see them in the tournament, it's the Pac-12, it's the Atlantic 10, and that's basically at this point. When I see them get higher seeds, I kind of cringe a little bit. Like, they'll get the higher seed over someone else because if they get a higher seed higher than an ACC team, I almost just think, you know what? I just don't get it. But because you know what I'm saying, like I see Oregon last year as the 1 seed out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And guess what? They beat Duke, but they didn't. I mean, they made it to the Elite Eight, so they got to where
you're not really expecting them.
Right.
Yeah.
But this year, I think it's a little bit different. They got Oregon team and a UCLA team that actually might be teams that are going to make some big noise. And then last year, that was the other team. That was the other conference, the Big East. Year after year, I was like, Villanova keeps getting these top seeds, and they never really do anything in the tournament. Well, last year they shut me up.
Last year was finally the year Big East finally did something.
Anyone else? Xavier really didn't go off last year. I mean, the Big East is nowhere near. Like the Big East of old is the ACC now. Am I right? Like the real competitive conference.
Yeah, without a question. I mean,
so I think this year
from the top to bottom,
the only team in the Big East is I think that's going to be like a real threat, Villanova, and then in the Pac-12. I look at it as Oregon and UCLA. Those are real threats, but any other ones that might get some higher seeds, I will be very, very wary of when I'm picking my bracket.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's like you have certain conferences when you go into the bracket where you're like, when you're picking your bracket, you're like, I'm not really comfortable with them. Like, whereas like a team like in the ACC, you might be like, well, they were, Louisville was only in 5th in their conference, but they're Louisville and they get, they face UNC, Duke.
Syracuse
yeah.
I mean, that was out of nowhere too.
Yeah. So you definitely have to base a lot of it off conferences
the Daytons of the world. I mean, that's what the tournament's all about, right?
Yeah.
These schools that
Best time of the year. Best time of the year. Upsets from all different conferences.
But if you had to look at this right now, this Gonzaga thing is very familiar. I would probably go back to 4 years ago?
Yeah. It feels like it's almost every year.
Back in the Olynyk. But there was like 2 years ago, they were actually a really good team. Last year, I thought they were actually a team that was worth it. This year, I feel the same as I did 2 years ago. A team that's good enough to win all their games on their schedule, and we'll see if they can continue their winning ways. But I just don't see. They're going to probably get a 1 seed. This is exactly what I'm thinking about when I saw the Oregon last year. They're going to get a 1 seed, but I'm not going to treat them like a 1 seed when I see the bracket.
Yeah, you treat them more like a 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I don't even treat them really as a 2 because I'm like not confident enough that they're going to be able to make that push. It's weird because
if you see
they're
Duke,
a good team.
If you see Duke, let's say Duke. I mean, I know they're kind of down on the rankings right now, but if you see Duke as a 2 or 3 seed in that side of that bracket, I look at them in the 1 seed. I remember 3 years ago, I saw Michigan State as a 4 seed inside the bracket. Obviously, they lost to UConn, who was a 7 seed on that side. But I treated Michigan State that year as if they were the 1.
As a 1, yeah. No, it's a great point. I agree with you completely because I'm not going to look at Gonzaga as, right now, right now you'd probably consider them either a 1 or 2.
Right, I'll consider they're definitely because you can't. You got to still reward teams that can consistently win.
Oh yeah, most of their talent is made up of players that have transferred over, which isn't a bad thing at all. I'm not saying that, but it's like rare that you see a team like that.
Are you against transfers, man?
No,
You
transfers
Albany,
are
come
awesome,
on,
but
man.
I'm just saying
Junior college
it's rare.
transfers.
It's rare
Right,
for like a
transfers.
team like that to, you know what I mean? They're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like the best of the. They're not the top of the.
I love their big man though.
Oh well, he was redshirt last year after
Right.
an injury, able to come back this year.
Yeah,
That's a big gain for them. He could pass the ball, shoot.
Right.
I mean, he's not the
remember
best shooter, but he can.
They were the 8th seed against Marcus Smart's Oklahoma State team in 2014, I believe. And I really like that Oklahoma State team, but the big man just killed him.
Yo, just dominated.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I think
he could do that again this year.
And if they match up well against teams, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. A lot of it is
But-
matchups too.
We're both not picking Gonzaga as our best team.
No.
Where are we looking at for our best teams in the NCAA if we're going to have, I guess, our own favorites going in to the tournament play?
You know, I want to go Kansas. I love the way Kansas plays.
I thought I was going to be in the minority if I went Kansas. I thought that they would be like a forgotten
No,
team. I know they're number 3,
But it's
but I
just,
felt like they're going to be a forgotten team.
they have the guard play. They have good big men too. It's just, and they can shoot the ball well.
Mhm.
And they're getting better as the year goes along. I think Kansas is one of those teams.
the
They have a great
experience.
head coach with Bill Self. So
And experience, too.
You got to imagine they're going to make a deep run. They might become the number 1 team in the nation by the time
Right.
everything comes around. I think they're probably the favorites. I have an outside. I like Duke a lot, not just because I'm a Dookie.
I'm of the thought of that Duke, no matter what their play this year is going to be, come
Yeah.
tournament time, I would see them as one of, if not the favorite.
Yeah, because their
Because
talent
of
is
the
just
roster,
insane,
yeah.
and then they have the seniority. They have the experience
They have
there.
a great combination. I talked about the experience of Kansas, but I know Josh Jackson's a freshman, but there's a lot of good even more good young pieces on Duke along with the
Yeah,
experience.
when like Giles is coming off the bench,
Right.
it's like that dude is
No
an
pressure
All-American.
on him. I mean,
McDonald.
he should really feel like he's playing with house money. I know he's playing kind of for being a lottery pick.
Yeah.
In a way, right?
It's funny too because he's not like he's gonna be a lottery pick maybe, but he doesn't feel like it when you watch a Duke game.
Right.
He's good, but like he's not even like
Which is
one of
kind
the
of
guys that's getting all the playing time.
I know he's coming off an injury, but it's kind of scary, or I want to say scary. I think it'd be actually good to think if you're an NBA team
Oh yeah,
because listen,
why not?
Why not? Yeah,
Yeah, and especially if you can snag him, you don't have to waste a number 1 pick on him.
yeah. Like a
which-
team like the Hawks.
He
Well,
might-
I don't know.
Yeah, he might go all the way down to what, 13, 14.
Yeah,
you look at like teams like the Miami Heat, oh my God, the Knicks maybe
the Knicks. Exactly.
could end up on being the Knicks. So yeah, and then
I
they
thought
have,
the Hawks might have traded for a lottery pick, but I don't think that was true. I was talking about a team maybe that like gave up an asset for a lottery pick,
and then
but
we're able to snag them.
yeah, probably
Yeah.
not going to happen for the Hawks, but for teams like that,
Yeah,
exactly.
no, it's yep.
And
Yeah.
so I'm still kind of on that mindset of no matter what going into that, I love the roster there. So I'm kind of like in my mind, they're still the favorite to me. And then you look at the team that really didn't lose anything else. Well, it's still a big thing, losing Archie Diacono and Achefu. I mean, those
Yeah.
are big, but they still got Josh Hart, Chris Jenkins.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still got a lot of great players. That's why I think Villanova's the other team for me. And then obviously Kansas, because Bill Self always has that team playing great. They got the experience along the way. So those are my 3 teams that I'm probably going into thinking of where they see in the bracket, where I'll see them moving forward, because I think those are the teams that are just gonna, to me, just be my favorites, and they're gonna be popular elsewhere.
Yeah,
Which is why we're gonna get to our like dark horses. In a way.
Oh yeah,
And I consider, and I'll just say it right now, it's probably not a dark horse because they're ranked 9th, or it should be 8th in the country. My dark horse would be a UNC team. I think they're kind of forgotten.
those pesky Tar Heels.
But I think that you talk about experience, they got a lot of experience. And so if they can stay healthy, I think they're a good enough team with Joel Berry. And I know Marcus Page was a huge part of the team last year when they lost in the championship, but man, I really do like the UNC team as my dark horse. And would you consider them a dark horse, or am I a little off base there?
No, you can, because they're not really talked about as like a top tier.
Right.
I mean, you think of them as, but you're not really like talking about them
Well,
being
you
a
think of them
national
because
contender.
they are UNC, right? Like if they're UNC, so they're kind of always in the conversation. So if the Patriots were 9-7,
You'd still be putting them in conversation if they made the playoffs.
Right.
To, go far. Yeah, no, that's a good dark horse team. I like UNC. They have the pieces just like you said. They faced a Duke team the other night without Hicks, and they were able to still, make that a very close game at Duke. So that's, it's a really impressive thing. I know it's a rivalry. I know it's, emotions get played in that, but UNC is a very good team, and I could totally see them making a deep run. I guess for my dark horse team, and I guess I'm always on their bandwagon just a little bit, is Kentucky. But they're not like the top of the crop anymore. And I know they're very young.
Well, it's the classic Calipari thing.
That's
right?
exactly. They have all this talent there that if they catch fire again right around tournament time, we could totally see Kentucky making it to the finals. They have everything you need. They have, Monk there who's improved. Oh my God, he can shoot lights out when he wants to. Mm-hmm. He's insane. So I don't know.
They're pretty loaded too.
That's exactly, and it's just it feels like
they're always a team that seems to always get there because they're young and they have to develop throughout the year, and eventually they get enough experience. I think the best thing that happens for Calipari teams is the conference tournament. It puts them in
them going a little bit.
What a real tournament is. Once they figure that out, that they're good enough to really compete on a night-to-night basis, which I'm sure they already kind of know, but once they get to that tournament, I think that's when they start to click.
Yeah. No, when they get into that vibe, like a win or go home kind of
think about
scenario.
These kids are used to being, a lot of them are used to being the guy. Not all of them could be the guy on the Kentucky team. A. And B, they're used to competing on a high level every single night, at really big games, I feel like. Now to where here, or maybe that's what they're expecting out of the college experience. They're expecting to come in and have a high energy game every night. Unfortunately, correct me if I'm wrong, so I see it in my personal opinion, I guess, I don't necessarily see it that way. I don't necessarily see the NCAA as the game as when you walk in, the kids come in every single night, it's always high energy. Now maybe for you playing Kentucky, it seems that way. But even if you have the crowd, I'm playing South Carolina. South Carolina's all right this year, but I'm going out and I'm playing this team that isn't that very good.
No, it's true because
there is they're not on our level.
There's a disparity sometimes.
What am I really playing
teams?
But when you get into playing for the SEC tournament, and when you get into playing for the NCAA
when
tournament, I feel like that's when these guys get up.
Because that's their competition. They need to win, and it's like other teams that can beat them.
They know they're going to the NBA. They know, and they're not going to, I feel like, I'm not trying to say that they're not guys that are going to give 100% all the time, but I feel like they should be playing for more. And once they get to that more, that's when they start picking up. My second, it's very quick, I want to bring them up before we head to break here. Florida State.
Okay, nice.
Because they got good young players, and they got experience too, because you got, Rothan Mays, who a couple years ago was supposed to, he came out and played well, and Bacon there. And then you got the young kid, right? Isaac Hayes, the freshman.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Or excuse me, Jonathan Isaac. Who's Isaac Hayes?
But you're thinking, I think you were just taking Hayes last night. We were just combining the names. I don't know. Not a big deal.
No, it's Jonathan Isaac. He's the freshman, Jonathan Isaac. I just think that they're kind of, I'm going to say they're hidden because they definitely had a coming out party so far this year, but they're going to be hidden when it comes to tournament time because they're going to be that ACC team that might get the shaft, if you will, because they have an early exit in the ACC tournament because how competitive the ACC tournament is, and they're going to get the shaft. They get the 6 or 7 seed, but they're going to get a Atlantic 10 team or a Pac-12 team maybe that doesn't deserve to be higher than them or something like that, And they're going to come out and I think they're going to be able to upset the 2 seed or whoever they might get or whatever.
Now, what about a team like Maryland?
They're tough. To really put
they have the pieces. It just feels like they always disappoint you.
Yeah.
When they get to that point, it's like a weird.
Well, it's kind of weird because
Melo, you want to have faith in, but then he just
I'm not putting down anything. But every time I see a Maryland highlight, and this is just me, it's always Kevin Huerter because we're sitting in the Capital Region, and I work I prompt over at the Mighty 1-3 with Roger and Chris Arano, and it's every single time I look at their highlight, it's always this Kevin Huerter stuff. Like, what did Kevin Huerter do? And there's no problem with that. A great local product.
Yeah.
I just feel like I don't know enough. I mean, how is Melo Trimble playing this year? I think he's doing all right, but maybe not as well as he could have.
I guess he's actually having a really good season this year. But he's collapsed before where he's gone on real bad cold streaks.
Exactly.
We saw it last year where
they were a complete team last year. They should have been a team that was a lot better. I mean, they had a good year, but
the last year they ran into
Kansas. I think, right? So I mean, it wasn't that easy for them. I thought they got a little whatever on their ranking.
Yeah. Well, they could have been higher, but they blew
Yeah.
some games in the regular season
I'm
that really
not
hurt them.
overly confident in this Maryland team, but then again, they have. I talked about Herter can really shoot, and if they can really get Melo going on his isolation, and maybe him work out the ball and get open shots for Kevin Herter, I think there's a very good chance that they can maybe be surprised. But
Yeah.
I don't see it at the moment.
Okay.
All right, man.
There we go. That was our dark horses. Nice.
Fantasy sports. I love it.
Game time.
And fantasy baseball's coming up. And
Fantasy
coming up.
season's never over, right?
Oh, of course. Fantasy baseball is year round.
Year round, baby.
It's year round. We got some prospects for you next.
Hey, Slovak and guys, every Thursday at 4 o'clock, we bring you Socially Awkward Media, now brought to you by For Your Convenience in Waterville.
It's your chance to show off what you know and what you want to know in the world of sports, either by our Facebook page, 1045 The Team, or tweeting at us at the Jeff Levac and at Tom Goz, TOMGOZZ.
Socially Awkward Media, we recycle your tweets and social media posts. They recycle your cans at For Your Convenience, 3rd Ave in Waterville. It's a marriage made in heaven. Right here with Levac and guys on 1045 The Team, ESPN Radio.
It's the Sitting Sportside Podcast, exclusively on 1045theteam.com.
And welcome back to the Sittin Sportside right here on 1045theteam.com. And Hogan, fantasy baseball starting back up very soon. Pitchers and catchers report in a few days. And that means we can start talking about our favorite possible prospects, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
That are going to
There's
be
a lot this year.
heavy impact players in the MLB. And we see a lot of them kind of come out of the bushes late in the season. You get the call-ups early, or you get the injuries that make someone else more valuable. But it is also very important to get the ones early on in your drafts, or late, obviously later in your drafts, that are going to help you out more throughout the entire season, and the sleepers, if you will. Now, we'll start with the prospects. That's what we teased. We're going to start with, each of us going to give one prospect that hasn't really played much in the MLB or hasn't played at all, and whether they'll be able to impact and have a straight path to some playing time and heavy impact. Who do you got from me?
I got Andrew Benintendi for the Red Sox.
Is it Benintendi or Benintendi?
Benintendi. Am I saying it wrong? Benintendi.
I think it's Benintendi, no?
Benintendi.
I can't even say.
I'm a Red Sox fan. I can't even pronounce it, but a lot of people look at him as the number one prospect. David Ortiz is gone. He's going to hit in the middle of that lineup. He's got a great swing for Fenway Park, especially he plays left field. He's going to play outfield. I know in fantasy baseball, outfield might not be the most important position because you can usually grab a lot of guys. You know what I mean? There's like a lot of value plays, but I think prospect-wise, you can't go wrong with him, and especially in that lineup, he's going to produce you RBIs. He's got enough power to get you 20 home runs a year. He's got a good enough average to hit right around 300, and stolen base-wise, he's going to get you 10.
And you're confident enough that he put enough muscle on and enough did enough during the offseason to solidify his body for 162 games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't see why not.
What do you mean he was doing that? He came up and he wasn't able to even last 30.
He got hurt.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Are we gonna like? We can't just make an assumption though. That was why.
He said it himself. He went to the gym more during the offseason, tried to work his way up so he could stay on the field. Do you not know anything about your players, bro?
I just don't think it's as big of a deal as as it's made out to be. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, I see what you're saying, but Noah Syndergaard said he put on like 17 pounds to be able to last. So
we talk about that all the time, though. Does putting on pounds equate to lasting longer? So it's like I hate when I hear that.
Well, endurance wise, it might depends on what you're working. For some,
yeah.
I think Benintendi is a good one. Where do you see him batting though in that lineup?
He's going to be in the middle of that lineup, I think.
Middle,
because
middle.
David Ortiz gone, so you're going to have Mookie Betts probably lead off, Pedroia second, Bogarts third.
That makes sense.
Hanley Ramirez fourth, and then probably right there in that fifth spot.
You're really not moving Betts to 3 or 4?
He might, but he fluctuated at different spots in the lineup last year.
Right.
I think eventually he's going to find number one as his spot.
All right.
Because Bogart's going to say the
my prospect actually has some ties to the situation. That is Yoan Moncada. He's probably going to end up being the second baseman for most of his career in Chicago. He's got an easy path to playing time. I think he'll probably spend a month or two, probably down in AAA.
Now, in fantasy, are you concerned about his strikeout rate?
Well,
in some leagues, in some leagues,
for
if
points
it's a strikeout,
I play in a pretty big points league, and strikeouts are something that you take with the good with the bad. So like when I have Chris Bryant, and you take those strikeouts with what you're going to get.
Yep. So you're not really worried about it.
Not necessarily. I think he's going to put up enough points, get enough hits, and be enough because he's going to be at the top of that lineup, and I think that lineup is actually going to be. They're not going to be a great team. I don't see Chicago being a team that's going to even compete for the playoffs, but I think their offense is actually going to be good enough to do stuff to get a lot with, especially when you have a young kid who's going to come up and really kind of ignite things with Tim Anderson at the top of the lineup, and then Jose Abreu still hitting third with Todd Frazier in a contract year, possibly hitting fourth. Now, obviously, that's not going to last necessarily the entire season because I see him getting traded to some kind of team over there.
They're going to need some pop, too, with Adam Eaton gone now, too, also.
Well, he didn't have pop.
Well, I mean, like, he solidifies the beginning, the top of the order.
I think that's where Moncada is going to fit into.
That's exactly
with
my
Tim
point.
Anderson.
Yeah, you got, it's a nice person to fill in. He's got a road
to
being able to play in the top of the lineup.
You're just agreeing with
pop.
me.
I shouldn't have said pop because when you say pop, you think of home run hitter, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess a power hitter. So that was a poor choice of words. But I think he's got an easy road to the top of the lineup.
Yeah, and then on the same team there, I think Giolito, if you're looking for a young pitcher, I think he's a guy who's easily going to get. So he's probably going to get some starts at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely there, and I think he's definitely a guy that's gonna. When people say he struggled in that 1 year, he barely even got enough. Couldn't even put his feet down. The team was in a playoff race, and they didn't really give him as much of a chance. I think he's good. So once he gets his feet on the ground and really gets to be able to finally be okay with where he's at and get some starts, I like him. I like Giolito.
Yeah, I like that pick.
How about some sleeper picks going into the draft? Who are guys that are obviously been experienced, but maybe are ranked a little bit too low to you that could possibly make a jump?
So I guess he's not as much of a sleeper, I hope not, to the fantasy baseball community, but as a very good value.
I think what you're saying about this one, because I think I already know who you're going to talk about.
Yo.
I think the word here is undervalued. So he might not be a sleeper per se, but they're still ranking him too low in your opinion.
Yeah. DJ LeMahieu for Colorado. The man was a batting title champ last year in the NL. He gets it done in all categories. He's not going to hit you 25 home runs or anything like that, but he gets you double-digit home runs. He gets you enough runs scored if you play in a run-scored league where runs scored count as points. He hits at the top of the lineup in Colorado. He's got Carlos Gonzalez hitting behind him, and he's got Trevor Story hitting behind him. He's just in a good situation in a great hitting ballpark, obviously. Shouldn't be drafted. Yeah. He should be drafted higher, in my opinion. If you can snag him in those 7th to 8th rounds, go ahead, do it.
For someone that doesn't really necessarily play in the category league where my average needs to be fantastic, I would tend to possibly, I would be okay with waiting all the way until the middle teen rounds to pick up a guy like Jonathan Scope. I think he's a guy at second base that could possibly be a good sleeper for you. I don't know if he's a sleeper, but he'll get you to the power numbers, get you to run scores. He doesn't necessarily hit on top of the lineup, so he might not get enough at bats for you, but the average is going to take a dip, 100%. Like Mayhew's got the average. I would definitely love to have that, but for me, the sleeper would be for second base, probably be a Jonathan Scope, where you could probably scope up, if you will.
Scoop up
in the 17th or 16th round.
Yeah, it's a great pick. So it was a good pick there. Two good value plays, both at second base too. I like that.
I got a nice little pitcher.
Oh, okay.
And I did pick an Oriole there for a second, but I'm going back to the White Sox.
Ooh.
If you remember, I don't know if you paid attention, but Carlos Rodon had a very good end of 2016. I think that continues. I mean, when he came up, we all thought that he's going to be a guy who's going to put it all together at some point. Didn't really happen in 2015. 2016, he showed flashes, and in that last month, those flashes turned into more of a consistent good pitcher who's going to give you a ton of strikeouts. Give me Carlos Rodon to possibly be in the discussion of a kind of a wide open AL Cy Young.
Wow.
What?
I don't know about AL Cy Young, but I like where you went with it. A value pitcher?
Well, listen, Michael Fulmer, if he had kept it up the entire season, he would have been in conversation for the Cy Young.
Yeah, that's a big if.
I know it's a big
You got to
if,
keep it
but
up.
I'm saying Carlos Rodon, That's what I'm saying. But my point is that the AL Cy Young is wide open.
You're saying, there's not like that
I'm
one.
Not saying he's,
there's not
I'm
like
not,
that dominant
I'm not
guy.
Mike James here, where I'm saying that Michael Pineda is probably going to win Cy Young.
If you're on
I'm
Michael Pineda's
if
fan
he does
section,
as well as I think he can do, he'll eke his way into discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that though. It's wide open. I just don't think he will.
I said into discussion. Okay.
I'm trying to wrap my head around it a little bit. He's good though, so I can't, acknowledge, say that he's not. I don't know. In that spot though, he'd probably get drafted when. But it was a good pick. I like it.
Yeah, we'll definitely have more as the season approaches. The 2017 approaches. Very much looking forward to it. But we want to thank you guys for listening to Sittin Sportside. I'm Eric Hammond for Matt Hogan. We will see you next time.
Can't wait.